Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5-Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a new show I'm going to start putting out called Good Morning Fantasy Football. The idea is these are supposed to be quite short, sharp 15-minute shows to kind of just get you going with your day. For the start of today, because today's the start of the Scott Fish Bowl, and really this show is just going to be about musings, thoughts, things that are going on, things in practices, news, tournament strategy, all these sorts of things in 15 sort of bite-sized minutes, and every day will be something probably a little bit different, although there might be some recurring themes. And so this week, with the start of the Scott Fish Bowl, I thought it was a perfect time to talk about my thoughts for the Scott Fish Bowl. Now, if some of you are listening to me for the first time, because you've seen Scott Fish Bowl, then great. My name's Murf. We've been podding here on 5-Yard Rush for about 7 years now. I think we're closing in on 850, 900 episodes. I've honestly lost count. And I write for Fantasy Pros. I write for Pro Football Network, and I've published 3 fantasy football guides and bits and pieces. So been around the block a bit, been on a lot of podcasts as well over the years. And so welcome. Thank you for giving us a chance. I always appreciate it. We do have our flagship show. We have some great guests. Go back and view some of the content that we've put out over the years, especially most recently as well. So let's get started, because I want to keep this quite short. The Scott Fish Bowl starts today. For most people, some people have had their live drafts already, and if you have, congratulations. I hope they were great, and I hope you had a lot of fun. I saw the pictures, and they're absolutely brilliant. Some are drafting in the London live at the end of the week for UKFFC. And if you haven't bought your tickets, make sure you go buy your tickets to that ASAP. But for those of you that are kickstarting the slow drafts, most of them kickstart today. So I thought, what a good time to put some content out. And if you're not in the Scott Fish Bowl, this episode might not be for you. Tomorrow will be very similar, analysing first day's ADPs and thinking about where you might be in your drafts and some picks to analyze on. So I thought what I'd do is I'd look at some players, and I'm going to put this in inverted quotes if you're watching this on the YouTube, busts. Now, when I say bust, I'm not saying that they're going to bust. I say they're busting at their current ADP. This is the ADP that has come from goingfor2.com. So this is mock data. What I would say with this is a lot of these players are players that are not really falling in the live drafts from the data I've seen. But we'll analyze a lot of that tomorrow once we've got more data in there. So I'm only going to cover the first 11 rounds of this, because I think that's kind of all we need to know. I don't think you can really have a bust after 11 rounds. I think you get what you get at that stage. In round one, the player I'm not taking in round one is Sam Laporta. Now, it's not to say I don't think Sam Laporta's not going to have a good season. I think he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to be the tight end 2. I have Kelsey over him in ranks. The first downs and receptions kind of just nudge him over the edge. I just think there's going to be a bit of a change to how Detroit will operate. The story's out on Detroit. Coaches will look at how they were effective last year, defensive coaches, and will try and nullify that. And I think what you're going to see is just a slight tapering, not a huge amount. I still think he's the tight end 2. I'm not saying it projecting that he's going to fall off a cliff, but at the back end of the first round for me, you can't take him. I just am a bit concerned about that. Next is in round 2 is Trey McBride. Again, very similar. Trey McBride had massive weeks where he was effectively the only target in this offense. And that's changed. And yet there's the argument of he's going to get slightly better because he's got Kyler Murray, and that by that argument 100%. But you've added Marvin Harrison. You've got a now fit Michael Wilson in there as well. You've got you've got more playmakers. There's more mouths to feed than there were for McBride. And McBride had very, very good numbers, but in this format they were okay. They weren't exceptional. They were fine. They were good, but they weren't elite numbers. And things that hold him back are things like the first downs. He scraped to 40 first downs. I can't see him getting to that number again this year with more mouths to feed in that offense. So I'm at McBride at tight end 6. My people in this format, and people might say that's a bit low. I understand that. You've got to go your gut. In these tournaments, you've got to do with what you think is right. I'm putting out there what I think and looking at how the offense is going to run. And we had Jim Coventry break down this offense quite nicely on our show 2 weeks ago. So I'm there. I'm just not quite there on McBride. In round 3, I've got 4 players: Barkley, Kincaid, Harrison, and Pitts. So we'll start with Harrison because it's a lead on to the last point. Harrison is massively overinflated. I don't think there's a way in which Marvin Harrison hits his ceiling. Again, we talked about this with Jim Coventry less than 2 weeks ago, so go back and listen to that show. But ultimately, I just don't see a world where he hits his ADP. For him to hit his ADP, he's going to need 1,500 yards, and that's not going to happen in this offense in his rookie year. I just don't see it. I think the ball's going to be spread around a bit more. I think you're going to see Trey Benson probably get some receptions out of a backfield that didn't really get many last year. McBride is there. Michael Wilson's fit. He had a pretty good season. He's a big sleeper in this format. So I would, be focusing on him. I just think at price, Marvin Harrison is not going to reach the heights that he is. I think he's going to be an exceptional player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be a brilliant, brilliant player. But he's not somebody I'm in at this price in this format. Saquon Barkley is exactly the same. Saquon Barkley in this format is just a bit of a dud. I have him sort of around about the bottom end of the RB1 conversation. I think you're going to Philly, traditionally a team that doesn't have a bell cow back. You've got the story of the touchdowns are going to get vultured by Jalen Hurts in that offensive line. I think you're going to have, and yeah, I know Kelsey's not there. There's the argument they might not be as good. I think they're going to be fine. And then you've still got a lot of competition for targets, and it's the targets that really elevate players in this particular scoring format. And I just don't see that coming up for him. So I'm out of Barkley at price in this format. Kincaid's another one. I've got him at tight end 8. Now, I had a big chat in the fours group, the 104s group, and a lot of people were quite shocked with how I put it. I have a very even target distribution in this offense. I actually have Kincaid as the leading target man in this offense, but it's not a huge. It's not a huge number. It's 102. I've got him on. I've got Coleman at 90, Samuel at 90, Shakir at 80 targets, Kincaid at 102, Cook's getting 63, Knox is getting 45. It's a very even distribution. On that distribution, I project that maybe Kincaid might get to 40 first downs. 40, 41 is kind of that sort of number. I'm not seeing those elite numbers. And the problem is, I think Keon Coleman's going to come along slowly. So you haven't got a genuine field stretcher in this offense. Samuel's not a genuine field stretcher from what we've ever seen. Coleman, I think, is going to take time to adjust at this level. And then all of a sudden, I think everything's going to go to Shakir early on. And I think Kincaid's obviously going to get a fair bit. I think his ADOT increases, but I think the bottom line we're seeing here is I just don't see that elite level of tight end performance. So again, tight end 8 is where I have him, but I don't see him sort of breaking into those upper echelons there. So I'm just a bit concerned. And Kyle Pitts, very, very similar story. I don't have Kyle Pitts. I think, again, you can talk about the story of increased offense, and I get that. I have him at tight end 10 in this form. Tight end 9 in this format. Again, I can tell the story of the offense is better. They got a QB now who can throw the ball, and that's great. And they got a new OC who knows a bit more. I get that. It's also a lot of mouths to feed. You've got Bijan in there. You've got Drake London in there. I think there's just a few too many players. Again, I'm seeing a more equal target distribution there, and I think that's going to hurt Pitts. So again, at cost. So moving into round 4, Drake London's there again. I just think he's overpriced. People are overhyped. We don't even know how fit Kirk Cousins is going to be. And Kirk Cousins is a player that we have to be a bit careful of, just in terms of his injuries, Achilles injury. So I'm just a little cautious at price on Drake London. I love Drake London. He was my favorite wide receiver in that draft. He's a player I have immense respect, talent for. I think he's an incredible player. In a lot of formats, I'm quite happy to take a punt. In this format where you're chasing ceiling, I'm not sure. So for me, I'm out. Brandon Ayuk, it's well known he's going to be traded, or if he's not, they've tried to trade him. There's a lot of discontent there. I think the ball goes through Samuel. I think the ball goes through McCaffrey. I think Ayuk is the man looking in as opposed to the man himself in that offense. So I'm out of him in round 4. George Kittle, again, very similarly, I think he's going to be a very, very steady production machine. I got him at tight end 10. I think you're going to get very steady, consistent points out of George Kittle. I just don't think you're going to get those booms. And in round 4, there's other guys I run other than George Kittle. I think in these early rounds, you've got to be thinking about high volume ceilings. I don't see that with George Kittle. The volume wasn't there. Yeah, he led the league in receiving yards for tight ends, and that's great. But the first downs are going to struggle to be there in this format. The big plays are going to struggle to be there. The touchdowns are going to struggle to be there. So I just don't see. I think he's a very safe floor play. I get it. If he was 2 rounds later, I'm snapping him. But in this round, and this price, not for me. And Devontae Adams, again, very similar. I think you're going to see the shift of play now, where we're going to see Jacoby Myers get a lot more of the ball. You've got Brock Bowers in there. I think Adams is a great player. He's proven he's a great player. But a round 4 ceiling player, I'm just in this format. Again, I'm going to continue to stress this. In this format, at that price in round 4, I can't push the button on him. I need to push him down probably a round or 2 on that. In round 5, Brock Bowers, exactly the same. I don't think Brock Bowers is going to be this elite production tight end right out of the gate, not with Gardner Minshew as his quarterback, not in the style of offense that they play. So again, it's another player just at price I'm out on. Mike Evans. Mike Evans is probably my favorite NFL player currently playing. I love Mike Evans. To put him on this list for me is incredibly difficult. But the problem with Mike Evans is really simple. Chris Godwin is going to go back into the slot. He's going to play in a role that was occupied very similar, and you're going to see a very similar role for Chris Godwin to what we saw with Cooper Kupp a couple of years ago when Liam Cohen was the OC of the Rams. He's now the OC of the Buccaneers. And I think you're going to see a huge stylistic change where you're going to see Chris Godwin get peppered with targets more. And I think that's going to dampen what we saw out of Mike Evans last year. I don't think you're going to see that kind of level of production and volume last year. I think you can write in pen he's going to get 1,000 yards. I think you write in pen he's going to get 7 or 8 touchdowns. But I don't think you're going to see this ceiling of what you were getting last year. And I think that's the case. He goes down 2 rounds in my board for me. So round 5 is a reach. Isiah Pacheco, I think the fact that they've targeted more weapons in this offense, they want to be more vertical and more aerial with their attack. I think that just tempers what Isiah Pacheco is going to do just slightly. Again, he just goes down slightly. There's just other guys in region at cost I prefer more than Pacheco. It's not that I don't think Pacheco's a good player. It's not that I don't think he's going to be okay in this format. He's just not going to be a round 5 player. I think you're better off getting other players in this realm, and I'll talk about them ever so in just a little while. And Nico Collins, I don't project is going to be the leading point scorer in this offense. That to me is going to be Tank Dell, and that is where I think there's going to be a bit of cannibalization here with Diggs and Collins, just a little bit, and I think it's going to leave Tank Dell to sort of just mop up a bit of additional here. So that's why I like Collins again, another good player. I think in this format he'll do fine. I don't see that round 5 ceiling. There's other players at cost here I think you can get into. Round 6, we've got Amari Cooper, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, and Matt Stafford. I just don't think that Browns offense is going to be particularly dynamic this year. And again, a lot more mouths to feed now with Jerry Jeudy coming in. You got Elijah Moore in there. I think Cooper's, again, he's going to be fine. But round 6, I just think it's a huge reach. He's not got Joe Flacco, who's just going to just sling it downfield and just go for it anymore. There is going to be a slightly more tempered, more controlled measure of this offense. Devonta Smith, again, I just think with Saquon Barkley, he gets a little bit of cannibalization, not huge amounts, because otherwise Barkley would be shooting up boards, and he shouldn't for me. But there's just enough there to make me slightly concerned and just temper him down slightly. Again, I like him, just at this cost, it's a little rich for me. DK Metcalf, it's just the first downs, really, that kind of keep him down with the receptions. There's other guys here that are going to be more productive and are going to lift you up here. DK Metcalf feels more like a 7th round pick in this format, maybe even an 8th round pick. And Matt Stafford, again, just with the scoring in here, he's just a bit lower than other guys. There's also ongoing back issues, injury problems. He's getting older. the wheels will fall off for Matt Stafford very soon. It could be this year, could not. There's just other guys. For me, I'd be plugging in Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith. These are guys I feel a little bit more comfortable with. Even Deshaun Watson. I'd rather have those guys than Matt Stafford. He's giving you absolutely nothing on the ground. And that's where he just hurts you here. Round 7, I've got Keenan Allen, Zay Flowers, and George Pickens. So Keenan Allen, I just think he's going to be a bit of the odd man out in this offense. We're not going to see the production that we've seen historically from him. I think it's going to taper off as this offense starts to gel and click. It's completely brand new. Zay Flowers, I'm kind of in two minds with Zay Flowers. I love him in most formats, but in this format, my model just isn't a fan. It just tempers the ceiling. I think he's going to have very, very good numbers as a whole, but on a points per game, I think it's going to just be a bit mad. And I think you're going to get some good ceiling weeks out of him. I think you're going to get some really low scoring weeks out of him. I just am slightly concerned with there's not going to be as many of those big ceiling weeks that we started to see towards the end of last season in this offense. And I think you're going to see other guys come along. Maybe someone like a Rashad Bateman is someone who I think could see a bit more production in this offense, who they did invest a first round pick in, don't forget. And George Pickens, again, I'm not enamored with the Pittsburgh offense to want to invest capital this early stage in this scoring format. There's just other players in this range, like a Chris Godwin, for example, I'm just a little bit more enamored with. So I'd rather sort of fade there. Round 8, TJ Hawkinson, he could be out till Thanksgiving. It really could be that long. Unless there's injury news that changes things thinking, I think that's just too much of a gamble. He might not even play at all. Like, it really could be hit and miss how long he goes. Hollywood Brown, I just think the ball is... I just don't see it. I've never seen Hollywood Brown be a consistent elite fantasy producer. He's on his third team. I'm not so sure it's going to happen here for him straight away. And I think with Xavier Worthy, I think Rashee Rice is going to cannibalize it. I don't think Rashee Rice is going to get suspended in 2024. And I think that's a lot of mouths to feed when you've got Kelsey, who's going to be the number one target for the most part in this offense. Yeah, I don't really see it for me. And then, round 9 is rookies, Adunze, McConkey. I think they could be fine towards the end of the season. I just think pinning your hopes on them is a bit of a worry. Zack Moss, I don't think Zack Moss is actually going to be the long-term guy here. I think Chase Brown is going to take over, and I think that backfield's going to be a bit of a mess, so I'm out there. And then I've got in round 10, Addison. Well, with Jefferson back, you're not going to see the spike weeks that we saw. Komet, again, in Chicago, it's just a bit of a mess. You're punting there, hoping he's going to be a guy. Keon Coleman, I'm not in on Keon Coleman. As I've sort of said, there's a target distribution. I think it's going to be slow to come along. I think he's going to be fine as he's going to move along through the season, but he's someone I'm a little bit concerned about out of the gate, and I don't think I can invest the capital there. Guys I'm sort of reaching for. No one in round 1, I don't think you can. But round 2, I'm quite happy to reach for guys to the top of the round or even the first round. Guys like Kelsey, St. Brown, Dak, I think all of those are the elite performers in round 2 that are going. So quite happy to really sort of move them up boards. Kyren Williams and Jaden Daniels are players I'd happily take in the second round. They're going in a third round ADP. I feel like both those players are set to have big performances this year in Scott Fish Bowl. Derrick Henry in round 4, consistent performer in all these metrics. He's going to be a consistent performer again. He's always produced that elite volume. I think it's a good fit for him in Baltimore. He's a 4th round ADP. I'm quite happy to reach around for him. In round 5, I'm looking at Michael Pittman Jr. with Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson. I'm looking at Deebo Samuel, who I think Brandon Ayuk fades to the background. Both those guys you can reach a round or 2 quite comfortably on, and those guys are going to be really good, solid picks for you. In round 6, I've got James Cook, Alvin Kamara, and I've got Walker there as well. Both of those guys, I think you can easily reach 2 rounds for. All 3 of those guys, I think, are going to put in really, really good, solid performances for you this season in Scott Fish Bowl scoring. Round 7, James Conner, I think, probably one of the best steals of this draft. If he's available in round 7, I think you've got to reach and get him. I think you've got to really, really think about that, because I think with his volume, if he stays injury-free, he's going to be potentially a very, very strong performer for you. Deshaun Watson, I think, is going to be better than some of the other guys going in round 5 and round 6, so I'd be quite happy to reach him a little bit. And Tank Dell, we talked about, I think is going to be the lead point scorer of the wide receivers in this offense. I'm quite happy to punch his number earlier than round 7 if I can get him. In round 8, again, I've got Chris Godwin and I've got Jonathon Brooks. Both those guys I'd reach up 2 rounds for, but both of those, Jonathon Brooks is looking more and more likely he's going to be ready for the start of the season. And I think you're getting an injury discount on him right now, and I'd be quite happy to pay the price tag on and reach a little bit more on Chris Godwin. I think he's going to outperform Mike Evans, so I would almost swap their ADPs. Round 9, Shaheed is up there, and he was the overall top 5 in scoring last year in this format. Again, nothing really changes. I think that offense is very similar to how it was 12 months ago, even with a new OC who I think could even go more vertical and give Shaheed more of the ball. Yeah, I'm all in. I've seen him go in drafts in the 5th and 6th round. I think you've got to be prepared. He is in my top 12 wide receivers in this scoring format, so I think you're going to have to reach above round 9. I think you're going to need to go round 5 if you want Shaheed in your team. And I've got Nick Chubb in there. I think Nick Chubb is returning to health, and I think you're getting a really good injury discount on him. The worry is, does he stay fit? But in round 9, if you get in round 8, round 7, I'm still quite happy to push the button there, absolutely, on him. Round 10, I've got Jaylen Warren. I think Jaylen Warren is going to usurp Najee Harris, and I think he's going to be the lead back in that offense. I think they're going to run the ball a bit more. It'd be a bit more of that. We saw what Arthur Smith does. We've seen it before. He ran a lot of Bijan. He ran a lot of Tyler Algier. I think you're going to get a lot of that, and I think you can feel pretty confident taking Jaylen Warren now. I'm quite happy to reach by a couple of rounds. And the same with Geno Smith there. I'm quite happy to reach on him. And that's really taking us through the first sort of 10 rounds of the Scott Fish Bowl. So I feel quite confident that most people starting slow draft aren't going to get too far past that today. So I feel like that gives you a good bit of context. And I'll just finish you up here with my tiers here. So my top 12 running backs are McCaffrey, Robinson, Hall, Taylor, Williams, Gibbs, Henry, Etienne, Mixon, White, Kamara, and Achane. My RB2s are Barkley, Walker, Cook, Jacobs, Pacheco, Spears, Connor. In fact, Connor's wrong. Connor should be up 4 spots on here. Stevenson, Brooks, Warren, Pollard, Robinson. And then I've got Swift, Chubb. Again, Chubb, I think I'm putting a bit of an injury on there. I could see him easily eclipsing into the RB2s. Montgomery, Gus Edwards, Zamir White, Aaron Jones. Just in this format, doesn't really seem to play out well for him. Raheem Mostert, Devin Singletary, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Antonio Gibson, Rico Dowdle. And that's kind of where I'm sitting for the top 36 running backs. And wide receivers, my top 36 wide receivers are as follows. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I have Shaheed here at 6, Nakua at 7, Brown, Pittman, Samuel, Wilson. I have Marvin Mims as a player I've not talked about because he's past round 10. If you could reach up into the 6th, into the 7th or 8th round and get Marvin Mims, push the button. I have him as my wide receiver 12, and that's a lot of it to do with the kick return scoring. My wide receiver 2s are Chris Olave, DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, Tank Dell, Chris Godwin, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Drake London, Stephon Diggs, Marvin Harrison, at 22, Malik Neighbors and Nico Collins. And then my wide receiver 3s are T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, Rashee Rice, Jaden Reed, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Smith, Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Christian Kirk. And that's where I am with my top 36. I'll put all of these in the show notes so you can see them. Tight ends, I'll just do the tight end ones. Kelsey, Laporta, Andrews, Ingram, Njoku, McBride, Ferguson, Kincaid, Pitts, Kittle, Freiermuth, and Brock Bowers. And that's where I'm at with all of my players, all my rankings. That should get you through day 1 of the Scott Fish Bowl. Tomorrow on Good Morning Fantasy Football, I'll do some analysis on the picks so far. I'll share my team. I'll share a little bit more around what the ADPs are looking like, so that those of you that are a bit more behind will have a good opportunity to get some good views and really see the playing field a bit better. And as you a bit ahead, we'll start focusing towards later on in the draft some potential draft steals as well. But I hope you found this useful. Please do subscribe. Please do hit the little bell. You don't have to pay for it, but it just helps us out getting a bit more reach and doing more content. So appreciate all of you today. Thank you so much for your time. If you've tuned in for the first time, please let me know how you feel. Please write some comments below. Appreciate all of you, and good luck today in your Scott Fish Bowl drafts. Don't forget, as always, keep rushing.